today we have former chief from the Public and Private Development Center. She's here to take us through. Please, can we have one house? Can we all listen? So please, this is very poor. Hello, please let's appreciate. Some people are on their phones. Some people are on their laptops. Please let's be back here. All right, come on, you're welcome.
I want to quickly do some.
It's really awesome to be here. I've seen so many familiar faces. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very inspired, energized, very important National Education Talk on education. So for the past few minutes I've been at the back, I was privy to listen to Dr. Adeboye's paper on inclusivity in education. And the young man that sat beside me, we were talking about, and that was before the gentleman at the back asked the question around how do we, because initially we are having a conversation before your question came, on in fact, we have to make it a culture. You know, it's not all the issues we're talking about yesterday. It's not a standalone. We have to be intentional. We have to be strategic. We have to make plans. We have if you look at the society, what plans are we making for people with disabilities? How do we care for the patients? How do we see them to be part of the society? We can make provisions for me in a segment of the society, whereas in the larger society, I am not, accommodated to go to bridges and all this. And I'm very happy when Dr. Adeboye was responding to him, and he also acknowledged the fact that they're also having, interagency collaborations and discussions with the Ministry of Work, how and what to do. And I also like the fact that we are talking about different kinds of issues, personnel resourcing, welfare, financing for education. But for my presentation, I'm going to talk about how do we manage the huge finances, even now that COVID has struck us. If you look at the education budget for this year, you will see a huge gap from what we had last. It's declining. So a lot of things, global trends, things that are happening in our society that is even affecting education financing. How do we make sure that the resources we have is better managed? That monies are spent in accordance with what they are supposed to provide. And when the things are provided, that the resources are not wasted. That people that these schools are built for using and they are enjoying. Someone asked a question and said, even the schools, when the infrastructure was being built, the students are happy, to be able to, that are having the idea that, they're going to eventually use the school, make them happy. So that's what I'm going to talk about. My presentation is very simple, but a little bit technical, but I'm going to try as much as I can to, simplify the technology, the way I could. So I'm just going to talk about open contracting data standards. So open contracting data standards, just the way it sounds, is about making procurement information open by default. So it's no longer going to be HDI or test center or PPDC my organization or body or people or citizens requesting for data concerning procurement. It has to be open by default. It has to meet global standards, which means the information has to be open and it has to be standardized. It has to follow a particular format. It has to be coherent. It has to cover different stages in the procurement cycle, from planning, when it's being planned at the user department, when the tendering is happening. So when the tendering is happening, it's open. When the award, the bidding process is being done, it's open for people to see. And when the award is also issued, it's open for people to see. And when eventually it's being implemented, it's also open for people to see. And it has to follow that sequence of a standardized format. So that is what open contracting data standards is. So this is about PPDC is just like HDI, We work in the areas of public accountability, social accountability, access to information, procurement reforms in Nigeria. We support, different governments, different civil society and private sector. We work so much in collaboration with different actors to make sure that governance is inclusive. It's not for a segment of the people, and that people also have the opportunity to participate in the policy decisions that eventually will grant different kinds of public goods and services. Access to information, inclusivity, service delivery, and all those areas. And also, of course, in the area of anti-corruption, developing policies, running advocacy for government to take up reform-driven initiatives that will address issues around procurement-related corruption. And so the East African Bloc region had this big summit for countries within the East African region. And the key theme from that session they had was procurement. How do they make procurement inclusive, make procurement deliver better services for the people? Because procurement, as we all know, is number one risk of fraud and corruption in government. So it's a very critical sector, it's a very critical thing. A huge amount of money from the government, budget goes into procurement. So it concerns every one of us because it sends us as government agencies, as procurement agencies, as regulatory agencies, and also the end users, which are citizens. So why should there be transparency in procurement? And I think that one of the reasons, I just have 4 reasons here. And the first one is public sector organizations are spending public money. They have a legal and moral responsibility to ensure that it is spent as carefully as possible. And also, it's also the primary responsibility of government in meeting the welfare and security, security needs of the people. We are all Nigerians, and if you open the 1999 Constitution as amended, that's almost the first thing that will reach you. So, set of national infrastructure and standards of living are largely dependent on procurement deliverables, which is also the point that I just made now. And a good size of national budget expenditure is secured through the public procurement process, and that's also one of the things I want to talk about today. And what is open contracting? So I gave an overview of what initially what it means. It's all about data. We all deal with different kinds of data, but the data I'm talking about here is data on procurement. So the procurement spectrum covers 5 stages, like you know, and at each point in each stage, new data sets are vetted from the user department, what project you want to do that is from the budget, all these things are data before it goes to tendering, before bidder starts, indicating interest. Different kinds of categories of data are coming out. And if we don't structure them in a way that is, standardized, it becomes messy. And then what you will have are instances, which are some of the things you see. And before you know what, you start accusing people of what they didn't do. Meanwhile, they have the interest of the people at heart, right? Because if you put out data, different people will run with it. And if you don't put it in a way that is coherent and factual, you will have issues of people running with budget information without knowing that the procurement process has already happened. And what was budgeted for wasn't actually what was expended. So it's important that those information from the stages, from budget, down to the bidding process, down to implementation. At some stage, you find out that when it's time to implement, Africans, we're very traditional people. You will bring a project to my brother's land, and I will tell you, this is my brother's land, I don't need this project yet. So the agency could see back in my community can decide to site it in another location. That doesn't mean that the project was not implemented. It simply means that he was actually taken to another location. But if there is no standard platform that is human machine readable, that is open for people to, to see, it's very difficult for you to actually claim that this money or this money has been expanded or that the project is not there. So the open contracting data standard tries to a system-wide approach by looking at budget information, award, contracts, and implementation. So everything is open by default and it's constantly updating any changes or modifications that happen during the whole project implementation process. And it's very, very difficult. It's very important in resource wastage. It's very also important in meeting the standards of the Public Procurement Act, which is supposed to uphold transparency, fairness, accountability. The private sector has seen this, that the government is transparent, they are accountable, the users, the people, the children, the parents, the guardians, everybody is saying that government is actually doing the right thing which they are supposed to do. And the government also is able to manage their resources very well. Because what it also does is it creates a watchdog system. And you know how we are. You know that something is in the open and you are being monitored. You will always be quick and careful to, how you react and do things. So that's what open contracting data standards does. And the next thing is it opens up, is to open up and monitor public contracting, which is what I have also talked about, from planning to procurement. So when you consult people, when you do this assessment and feed into the budget, those feedback of the people, and I think it's also going beyond inclusiveness, but people actually seeing that what they have, indicated they want to see in the budget is actually open out there. And then during the procurement process, observation, I know in these civil societies we discuss a lot, and I like the fact that our government agencies are beginning to see us as not enemies, but people who are collaborators that want to, impact the country we live in. I'm very, very, I don't know if Lagos State is here. I was wowed in December. I think it was September that I held this forum, very similar forum. The chairman was there and all the high level officials. And I was like, this is the first time I'm actually seeing something like this. It was really, really encouraging. To see the high level representation in Lagos State despite a very busy schedule and they stayed all through the session. And okay. Lots of people, what I'm trying to make is that lots of civil society organizations come with this data, use it to make sure that the money you're spending, translates to improve service delivery. So when you have your data open, civil societies are well informed about your processes, and we're able to monitor the schools, the hospitals, and all the projects you deliver, and then give you evidence-based feedback. Nigeria is a very huge country. It's a very huge country, and even though the agencies have, their M&E teams and all those people that go to the grassroots to monitor, it's not even enough. As per the project that they deliver and all the things that happen at different parts of the country. So it's very good that we have an open system where different people, not just civil society, but the users, we know that nothing is as beautiful as having the people who these things affect monitor. So when you have people who use it, monitor it, they give you evidence-based feedback because they are passionate about those things and they have value and interest for them. And that's what open contracting tries to do. And also down to implementation and monitoring. Hello, please those at the back. There's another meeting happening within this hall. Please, can we give the presenters some respect? There's so much noise and numbers coming from the time. Thank you. Thank you so much. And so this is like it's 9 of what the kind of comparison that open contracting does. So you're seeing my screen now. You have budget amounts up there, the sky blue color. It's up there, and then eventually it's about something million. That's how much it was budgeted for this particular project. It's a construction of a PhD, a car compound, Yende. This is in Benue State, one of the projects we monitored. And from the analysis we did, because we have an open contracting portal, we show that the budget is up there. And then eventually when they do the procurement, you can see the dark graph, it's somewhere below the line. So there's a disparity there. If as a civil society I requested for information and run with the budget information, I probably may find something because the amount eventually was something below 30 million. So I will be expecting to see a project worth 30 million. But in reality, it was not 30 million. But if you have a system that shows all those analyses of how much was budgeted for how much was eventually implemented, it gives people, informed knowledge about the reality and what the realities are and what the facts are without anyone accusing anyone of guessing. And the next slide I have is why should we do this? Every time we talk about how do we fight corruption, especially in procurement, open contracting brings that kind of business case because it helps you easily to detect fraud in the system, and also about issues around corruption. And what it does is scrutiny of procurement documents and identification of red flags. So by the time you put out your information, just the example I gave you the budget information, the last screen I showed, if your agencies are putting out those information, even without investigating journalists, your department, your teams, your officials are seeing all the issues regarding contractors, because you have all the information at your palm. You can make easy analysis to see where many of all the funds are going. I think it was in Enugu State where they were looking for how do they also go beyond the contracting but integrate all their financial systems to be interoperated. And one of the use cases they wanted is we want to actually see where many of the funds are going, which sector is getting the hugest amount of resources. So you can see the kind of evidence it will give you. Maybe you're projecting so much for this segment of the population. Maybe you should look at all. So you have all those data at your hand to make the decisions you want to see. And then if there are very suspicious projects, maybe the project was projected, constructed, and eventually within a space of 2 years, which is supposed to have been executed, it's not done. The red flag is able to show you that if there are very projects that were done and they are not done well, the status of the project will tell you. You have all this analysis and evidence to take the kind of action you want to take. And how does it do this? It does that by systemic monitoring, which I also talked about. And why OCDS again? So as I'm going through my presentation, I'm going to be reiterating why OCDS. And another reason is also because it helps us to disclose documents and interoperability of data. It's also global, it's in line with global standard practice. The world is changing. A lot of things are changing. No country wants to, no government of any country wants to be seen doing the wrong thing or not moving with the time. Everybody wants to be pro-reformist. Everybody wants to see impact in their country. They want to see value for money. And that I believe every government wants to perform optimally. They want to be celebrated nationally and globally. So it's also in line with standard practice, which is standard practice of accountability, which is open contracting, which is what the open contracting data standard does. And my next slide is talking about, so just an example of what this could do. We know that just the one by my left-hand side, how sometimes we stash papers in our offices. If this is zoomed in, you will see, because this is actually a screenshot of what we see when we visit some agencies. But that was back in the day, because now a lot of states, a lot of agencies are taking up open contracting, so we don't get to see lots of all these issues again. So you can imagine those paper stash. These are contracting documents, documents of executed and yet to be executed project. If there's a fire outbreak or flood, all those documents will be destroyed. And it's really a big issue. So it's good that we also digitize the documents and make it open for people to see. And this is also an analysis of what open contracting does. I hope I have time, within 20 minutes. I'd love to do a little demo on that. And the next slide I have is, so this is what it does. You're looking at my computer inside there. And then you have all the different projects pointing to different communities. And when we have open contract, when we use it as a tool, it helps us to monitor. Initially, we are monitoring like maybe 20 projects in a quarter. But with open contracting, we had access to more data because the agencies were providing information, real-time information. So you have access, you have timely access to data, you have factual data, you have location because OCDS has a standard. And the standard also addresses issues around data quality. You have to follow a particular standard, you have to fill different categories of fields. So everything will be filled up, making it easy for people to have access to wide information and data they can use to monitor projects. So with all those categories of information, you have timely access to facilitate monitoring. And in order to, I talked about, in order to unlock innovation, common trusted government, and improve quality of life. It also, why again, I have another why again to come. It helps government to save money and time. You know, the time that you have to spend. There was an analysis we did, I think it was last week, we just concluded the project. And we are looking at open contracting at the federal level, what the federal government is doing. And the federal agencies attested to, since they started open contracting, it has helped them to manage their time more efficiently. It helps them to be more efficient, and that job satisfaction is there. Because you have to use technology to do it, and technology also facilitates efficiency. So they all attested that with open contracting, their work was easier. Even though initially it wasn't easier because it's not like moving from a paper-based manual way of doing things to a tech way of doing things. But along the line, when they started, they saw that really it's not the rocket science that they can actually adapt. And I'm happy to see them attesting to that. Things have changed. It has also helped them to monitor contractors, the kind of work they do, and the quality of the work they also do for them. It also helps them to detect fraud and corruption, and also improve service delivery for citizens, which is why all this conversation we've been having yesterday is still tilts towards satisfaction of the citizens, people having a dignity, people being satisfied with the work that the government is doing. And I think that's why we are all striving to make sure that money translates to better and standard service delivery. It also increases competition. We know that most times the projects are not even done by the agency. It's the private sector, which is a key actor in this space. So you want to have a system that is transparent and everybody trusts you. The trust perception index of Nigeria, we saw the last one that was produced. It's not so fantastic. But I think accountability and transparency helps, citizens to trust government more and have faith in what the government is doing. And the private sector also, having seen the system, seeing how everything is transparent, there's a level playing ground for contractors who are bidding for a project. If I use a contract and I'm sure the process was transparent, I will, beat my chest and say no. But if you're not sure how the system was transparent, you'll be very hesitant to say, oh, you don't know how we did this.
No, tu się tam
So open contracting is not actually new across the globe, but I'm just going to read what is happening across the globe to talk about what is happening in Nigeria. At the federal level, the review for public procurement is already their own has been launched 3 days ago. It's called the Nigerian Open Contracting Portal. And just seeing that my organization, alongside of the civil society, also drove an advocacy that eventually supported the uptake of open contracting using the research we did. So we just had to develop a tool. It's called HDINIGERIA. Now also means open it. And we just gathered all the data we collected from National Primary Health Care and UBEC. They were very forthcoming agencies as I said, 2016. We collected all the data, cleaned it up, and structured it using open contracting basic standards. And we went to the Attorney General of the Federation as of 2015 to say this administration has a mandate to fight corruption. And if we're talking about corruption, we have to improve accountability and transparency in procurement. And we scaled through, and during the London Anti-Corruption Summit in London, yes, in 2016, it was in May, the president committed to Nigerian implementing open contracting. And after the policy shift, we came back to Nigeria, and the BBB backed that policy commitment with action like developing the Nigeria's first open contracting portal. But our work never stopped there. Because like I said, Nigeria is a very big country. We started reaching out to different government agencies. The first people we worked with was Kaduna State. So you see a lot of things happen in Kaduna State. Kaduna State is globally celebrated, in Nigeria, so outside of Nigeria. It's very encouraging when when you go for some global conferences and you're sitting somewhere and you're seeing a sub-national government, being celebrated. It was a huge encouragement for us I think it's one of the OGP summits, Open Government Partnership Summits we had. I think it was in Georgia. And Kaduna was celebrated in different countries, clustering around them. Say, how did you do this? How did you do that? And I was like, yes, Nigeria also wants to see. So it was really encouraging to see them take that mantle of transparency. And they have really gone far. But I'm also happy that it's not just only Kaduna State that is doing it. This is 2020, and what is Kaduna 2018? 2018, 19, 3 years down the line, we have 7 states in Nigeria implementing open contract. And that's only the people we as PPDC supported technically. We have like Lagos State. I was astonished. Let me tell you what happened last year. I hope Lagos is not here. But I was there preparing my presentation to tell them about open contracting, the benefits, what they would gain there. And I opened the internet and saw that Lagos State already has it. So a lot of states are even doing it without people knowing, without people celebrating them. And I actually, applauded them. It was really, really encouraging that Lagos State has it. And there are more other states in Nigeria that have open contracting. But for the sake of the people, we as people, because we support state government to also implement. So we support the review for public procurement in each state to deploy within different sectors. Education is always one of them. Health, infrastructure, that's work, agriculture, and maybe 3 or 4 sectors that we want to pilot with. And so far we've worked with Abia State, we have worked with Adamawa State, we have worked with Anambra State, we have worked with Ekiti State, Kaduna of course, and then Kogi State. And this is just the 3 states we have, with lots of them already on the pipeline. But these are the people that their portals are open for people to use. So your state is also here to celebrate too. And available support. So just the last slide I showed. 6 states that we supported are already doing open contracting. But we also have important, there are key sectors that are very important. For example, the education sector. We can actually, the same way Kaduna State, and that is actually the point of my presentation, the same way Kaduna State serves as a model to difference of national government within the country and also outside the country. Students can also pilot open contracts. There has been issues and questions around, but our review has it. And because the way it works at the federal level is quite different from the way the state work. The federal level is quite, unique in its way, but when you look at the state level, different agencies and sectors are supposed to submit their information to the state review that claims and publishes for them on the open contracting portal. And that's the standard practice for all the states we have worked with. But we can actually go beyond that. And one of the things we are saying is because of the issues with education, better management of resources, better service delivery, like having our space and being able to monitor our own procurement process and the services we deliver. We are also encouraging students to pilot, independently pilot. And it will not be duplicity actually. Because what it actually means is the same data you push out to the VPP, right? Is for you to gather the data and then have your own interface system. So you have your own open contracting data standards portal that still connects with the state portal. So you're even cutting many work you have to do. So the user department that normally produces the data, instead of them to collect manually and forward to the review, they put it out there on the system. And the portal, the state portal, feeds all from your state portal. And you have your own portal, you showcase it, you use it to also show what you're doing to other states. And also within the subsector, which you can also celebrate globally and nationally. So we want to move beyond just at the state level, but also have very critical sectors like education to also pilot. And we are there to support you the same way we support states. We also there to support subsectors to be able to have their own independent portal and also help facilitate the conversation with the state, with the state reviews because we understand the whole landscape within the state and how they function. And that's what our support also entails. For the states we are working on, we're already facilitating conversation between the students and the state to be able to also, interoperate the state portal with the portal that they are doing for the students. And meanwhile, there's an ongoing support for state government, which for the states that are here that the government is already that is not doing open contracting, there is a financial incentive from the World Bank SESAS program, and the DLI disbursement linked indicator 6 of that program allows states to access up to $1.2 to $1.5 million of grants if they have an open contracting portal. So that's a very huge incentive that states should jump into. I was privy to see the report from last year that many states in Nigeria are not already doing open contracting, they didn't pass that education. So it's something that we are really encouraging states to also take on board. And what it requires, I'm very close to the end of my presentation. What it requires is just commitment, no money. So we're not looking for any money. We just want that commitment, the same way we get commitment from just political commitment. You're willing to do this, you're willing to improve your system, and we are there to support you in every way possible. And the support is very broad. It starts with training, series of training for the procurement and designated units that you want to be trained. We will also deploy the tool, collect your data, deploy the tool for you, do proper handover, train the officials until they are able to manage independently of us. And it's also entails commitment to partnership because it's a partnership. Sign an agreement with you who have able to work and to start up. And then you also have a dedicated person on the team that will work with us to make sure that the process is very sweet. And immediate benefits, I've talked about this over and over again, so I'm just going to jump in. And that's it. Thank you so much. Please can we appreciate the command again? So like she said, started by saying simple and technical. Very contradictory. But she has tried to simplify what open contracting is. So like she said, there's a lot of money that goes into public procurement. A large chunk of the budget goes into public procurement. And this money is public money, therefore it needs to be monitored and the transparency is required. So open contracting uses a lot of data, and it opens up the space to monitor public points and also public contracts. It requires planning, procurement, and implementation, and then monitoring at each level. And then at each level, data is also required and data is collected all through the process. Open contracting helps us to compare what amount of money has been budgeted and what has been spent. So a lot of times we see that the difference between budgeted and spent. It also helps to identify fraud. And like she said, it is advancing in the country. She has listed a number of states and also commended the state for really what they are doing in terms of open contracting and transparency. And finally, she has said that there is support available for states. Huge amount of money is there, but the state has to pass a certain criteria after the assessment has been done. World Bank is there, there's a lot of money, some millions of dollars are there. But it requires political will and commitment from the government, a team to be put in place so that we work on this smooth and swift. So thank you once again, Nicole. Yes, President, comments? Money matter. Procurement. Okay. Yes, 100. Well. Well. Okay, nobody wants your 1.something million. Okay, 700. All right, so take this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wonderful. Presentation. I just want to ask a quick question. Can this be used interchangeably with procurement? Okay, yeah, thank you very much for that presentation. I think the issues around transparency and accessibility have been issues that have been with us for a very long time. And the open contracting is trying to provide some light in this area. Also acknowledging that there are so many efforts that we need in adjusting the system to be more transparent. And we also acknowledge that there is a lot that needs to be done. Yeah, in Lagos State, for instance, I know that budget documents are online, and I also know that the state governor and the current administration is passionate about education, and that has reflected in the budget, and this was for the first time that I've seen. This year's budget is the second highest, and that's the level of commitment on the part of government. Yeah, so we need to appreciate that. The other aspect that I think that we need to do more, if for instance you access Lagos State budget online and you are able to download the document, you'll probably see sector by sector, how much is allocated to those areas. But in terms of tracking what those spendings are meant for is a challenge. And also, the tracking has to refocus the budget and also provide clarification to other stakeholders. Say, for instance, we just finished talking about inclusive education. It is difficult to see line by line which aspect of the budget is supporting inclusion. Yeah, we know there's 500 million budgeted for it, and that's also another cost something that we are very happy about. There's 500 million budgeted for inclusion in Lagos. But for tracking and monitoring, especially building the confidence of stakeholders who have seen the progress that they have made in terms of allocation, it's also important to see, to be able to know what those monies are directly going to. I'll give an example of the action plan by students. If you see the action plan by students, it is very clear to the last detail of where that money is going to. And it's easy for a citizen to just say, I am aware that a school will built in my community school, and these are the things that are in it. You cannot say the same about